Duck Apple, a short story for Halloween by Alan Toner. Tim loved Halloween, as did his best mate Billy. Both 11 years of age, neighbours and classmates, they also shared a fond interest for all things scary. And, of course, being huge horror fans, Halloween was their favourite time of year. But what they especially loved about Halloween was Duck Apple, or, as it was otherwise known, apple bobbing. Every Halloween they would alternate the celebration between each other's house. Last year they'd held it at Tim's house, but this year would be slightly different. Because once they happened to come across the large wooden barrel filled to the top with rainwater whilst out walking one day in the woods, all intentions to hold this year's Duck Apple events at Billy's house went right out of the window. "Hey, look at this," Tim shouted to Billy, who was just gazing at a rather cute little red squirrel a few feet away. "What?" Billy answered. Tim beckoned him over with a wave of his hand. "Over here." Billy walked over to Tim and frowned on seeing the large barrel at which his mate was pointing. "What is it?" Billy asked, slowly walking around the object and appraising it. Tim shrugged. "Looks like some sort of barrel to me." Billy said, rubbing his chin thoughtfully with the side of his forefinger. "Wonder who dumped this here? Search me." Tim's eyes suddenly lit up. "Hey, I've just had an idea." "What?" "This thing would be ideal for us to use on Duck Apple night." Billy looked up at Tim. "Hey, you're right." He looked back at the barrel and smiled approvingly, as if he had just discovered a pot of gold. "It'd be perfect." The fact that the barrel was already full of water obviated the need for them to move us all the way back to Billy's house. "Right then," Tim said, "we'll stuff a sack full of apples and bring them out here on Halloween night." "Cool," Billy enthused with a smile. "Looking forward to it." "So am I." Halloween night came with a weather that was seasonably cold and windy. Under the silvery light of the full moon, the forest was a carpet of fallen leaves of various autumnal colours. And all around it and in a nearby town, all the kids and adults were out in force, either trick-or-treating in their Halloween costumes or indulging in various other traditional pursuits, like apple bobbing. And apple bobbing was exactly what Tim and Billy were about to do right now, as they eagerly opened up their sack of apples, which they'd carted all the way from Billy's house. "Great, isn't it?" Tim enthused, as he carefully placed green apple after green apple on top of the water. Billy smiled, his face made up like Count Dracula's with blood-red lips, false fangs and dark eyeliner. "Sure is," he said. Once all the apples had been emptied into the water, the two boys proceeded to bend over the side of the barrel on opposite sides, ducking their heads with a view to snatching up the first apple with their teeth. Tim was within just a hair's breadth of connecting with his first stalk when a sudden voice from behind caused him to pause in mid-bite. "Hey, what you two doing?" The voice was that of a girl, a very young girl. The two boys broke off from their Duck Apple endeavours and looked around. They saw the girl standing a few feet away from them. She looked to be around 9 or 10 years old. She was quite a pretty little girl, with bright blue eyes, long blonde hair and a headband that made her reminiscent of Alice in Wonderland. Unlike the boys, she was not dressed in any Halloween costume, but wore just a simple light blue dress, its armless material looking a little too thin to be wearing on such a cold night as this. Her spotless white ankle socks and well-polished black shoes complemented the general neatness of the girl's appearance quite strikingly. Her face was pale and round in the light of the full moon. "Oh, hi," Tim said, smiling at the girl, who never reciprocated his smile, but just continued to stand there, watching the boys curiously. "What are you doing?" the girl repeated. "Oh, just a bit of duck appling," Billy said. "Duck appling?" The girl frowned bemusedly. Billy shrugged and gave a short laugh. "Well, it is Halloween. We do it every year. It's a kind of a traditional thing with Tim and me." "I see," the girl said slowly, giving a barely perceptible nod. Still not a trace of smile touched her lips. She still wore that same serious expression. "Hey, do you fancy joining us?" Billy offered. For a few seconds the girl looked hesitant. Then, when Billy further prompted, "Oh, come on, it'll be fun," she finally agreed. "Okay," she said, a smile finally breaking out across her dollish face. She walked over to the barrel to join the boys. "What's your name?" Tim asked. "Karen." "Pleased to meet you, Karen," Tim said. He nodded to his friend. "And this is Billy." "Hi, Billy." "And I'm Tim." "Hi, Tim." "I haven't seen you around these parts before," Tim said, eyeing the girl curiously. No," she replied. "I've not long moved here." "Got any brothers or sisters?" Billy asked. No, I'm an only child." Then, seeming not to want to discuss her private life any further, she dismissively said, "So come on then, don't just stand there. Tell me what I have to do here." "Okay, well it's quite simple really," Tim said, as he proceeded to explain to her the rules of duck appling. After that bit of abruptness she'd just shown, Tim was pleased to see she now appeared to be growing more enthusiastic. "You got the general hang of it then?" Tim asked. Karen nodded and smiled. "I think so." "Good," Tim smiled back. "Now, watch me demonstrate my duck apple skill, and then you can have a go yourself." "Watch you don't fall in," Billy said with a teasing smirk. "Don't be funny, you," Tim retorted with a wag of his finger. Then he bent over the barrel, placed his two hands on the side, and slowly lowered his head down towards the bobbing apples, resuming his earlier efforts to snap one up with his teeth. So deeply engrossed had the boys become in their duck appling that they hadn't noticed that, right after Billy's comments about Tim falling into the water, the girl's smile had quickly faded and was momentarily replaced by a rather brooding, dark look. Then, as quickly as it had come, that look was gone, and she settled down to see if Tim would live up to his boast about being skilled at duck appling. As it turned out, it didn't take him long, for he soon had a stalk clammed firmly between his teeth and was raising his head, the apple dangling from his mouth. Opening his jaws, he let the apple fall into his raised palm. He held it out to the girl. "There you go," he said, looking very pleased with himself. "It's as simple as that." The girl smiled, looking quite impressed. "Well done." "Your turn now," Tim said, gesturing to the barrel with a flick of his hand. The girl stepped forward. Being somewhat smaller than the boys, she had to raise her arms to reach the edge of the barrel. Noting that she was struggling slightly, Billy, who was the taller of the two, intervened. "Here, let me give you a hand." Placing his two hands underneath her armpits, he gently lifted the girl up a little so that she could reach her head down to the bobbing apples. "Better?" he asked. "Yes, thank you." "Right," he said. "Let's see what you can do." "Go for it, girl," Tim encouraged with a grin. Karen leaned forward with Billy's support, mouth opening, aiming for an apple that was floating near her side of the barrel. "Come and get me, little girl," that apple seemed to say. "Catch me if you can." Billy was just on the verge of cheering the girl the instant she managed to nab the targeted apple, when suddenly her whole body seemed to tense, to freeze up in his arms. Simultaneously, he felt a sudden sensation of coldness breaking out through the girl's whole body. The flesh of her bare arms now felt like icicles in his hands. And then, that coldness, that strange icy coldness, the like of which he had never experienced before, seemed to be seeping through into his own body, causing him to shiver. It was as if he was no longer gripping an ordinary young girl, but some kind of chilly thing, like something made from snow and ice. Now the girl was starting to squirm and struggle in his arms, as if she was panicking over something, and that panic was now registering in her voice. "No, no!" She was shaking her head slowly, fearfully. Then she began to thrash her head violently from side to side, as if not wanting to look any more at the apple-filled barrel. Her feet kicked against the side of the barrel repeatedly and heavily, as if trying to push her body away from it. Both boys stared at the thrashing and squirming girl in open-mouthed disbelief and incomprehension. "What's wrong, Karen?" Tim asked. The girl now looked as if Billy was trying to dump her into a sea of bloodthirsty sharks. She continued to squirm and struggle violently in his arms. "Put me down," she screamed. "Put me down now." All right, Billy said, staring at the girl as if she were having a fit. He lowered her back down and removed his hands from under her armpits. Her terrified shouts and fearful struggles immediately ceased, but there was still a look of apprehension and weariness in her eyes as she backed away from the barrel. "What was all that about?" Tim asked. The girl quickly looked at him, then back at the barrel, where her gaze lingered. She slowly shook her head. I don't know." "What do you mean, you don't know?" Billy cut in. "Something must have scared you, the way you suddenly went all panicky like that." Now that he had put the girl back down, he was relieved to find that the strange coldness as it gripped his body was now fast abating. God, what on earth had caused that? Again, the girl shook her head in that same uncertain manner as her eyes met Billy's. I told you," she said in a small voice. I don't know. Something just came over me. I suddenly got all scared." "Well, what should you be so scared of?" Tim asked. "After all, it's only an old barrel full of water and duck apples. Perfectly harmless." The girl made no further comments. Again she fixed her gaze on the barrel, something in her guarded expression seeming to say that she must not, absolutely must not, go anywhere near that barrel ever again. She was looking at it as if it were an explosive device waiting to happen, or something much worse. And the more the boys stared at her, the more they noticed that she had a kind of lost, haunted look in her eyes. Then she removed her gaze and looked at the boys. I have to go now." The boys' mouths dropped open in surprise. "Go?" Tim said. "Why, where to?" "Yeah," Billy said. "What's the rush?" The girl didn't answer, but began to slowly walk away from them, back towards the dense woodland from which she'd emerged. Then she started mouthing words in a low, odd sort of voice, as if she were in some kind of strange trance. "I have to go. I have to go. They will be waiting for me to go back." Who the hell were they? Tim thought. The girl then hurried her footsteps, her blonde hair shimmering in the silvery moonlight and dancing around her shoulders as she went. And before the boys could say another word, she was gone, disappearing into the woods as mysteriously as she had come. Billy shot Tim a stunned look. "Well," he said, "she was a queer one." "I know," Tim agreed with a nod. "You know, I thought there was something a little funny about her when I first saw her, the way she suddenly went all serious when she looked at the barrel." "Yeah," Billy agreed, "and the way she went all cold in my arms when I helped her up to the barrel." He frowned puzzledly and shook his head. Weird. The night itself seemed to be growing chillier, a cold northern wind stirring and rustling the bushes. In the distance, the boys could hear the excited shouts and laughs of other Halloween revellers as they went about their business, trick-or-treating or whatever else they were doing to celebrate Halloween. Then, suddenly, two of them emerged from the bushes, a young boy and a girl. They were both wearing Halloween masks, the boy a wolfman one, and the girl a witch one. "Happy Halloween, guys," the boy shouted, then tittered at Tim and Billy. He lifted up his wolfman mask, having recognised who the two boys were and noting their questioning looks. "It's me, Sean." Sean lived just around the corner from Tim and Billy. "Oh, hi, Sean," Tim said, a brief smile crossing his face. And then the girl pulled up her own mask. "And it's me, Mary." Mary was Sean's little sister. "Hi, Mary," Tim said. Sean noticed the barrel and nodded to it. "Been indulging in a spot of duck apple then?" he asked. "Yeah," Billy said. "We had a bit of company too, until she suddenly decided to walk off." "Oh yeah?" Sean's eyebrows rose. "Who was it?" Billy shrugged. "Dunno. Some little girl about 9 or 10. "Yeah," Tim cut in, "and a right weird one she was too." "Really?" Sean said. "In what way?" When Tim told him how she had acted, Sean's face darkened. He looked at his sister, who was also now looking quite serious. He swallowed hard. "Did this girl tell you her name?" "Yes, she did," Tim said. "Said her name was Karen." Instantly, Sean and his sister exchanged uneasy looks. "Karen," Sean said absently. in a low voice, looking at Tim in a kind of dazed way. "That's right," Tim said. He frowned at Sean. "Why? Anything wrong?" A heavy silence fell between them for a few moments before Sean said, "What did this Karen look like?" When Tim described her, Sean's face grew even grimmer. "So it must have been her," he said. Tim and Billy stared at Sean in puzzlement. "Must have been who?" Billy asked. "Guys," Sean began, "what I'm going to tell you I am sure you will find very hard to believe, but it's true." "What are you on about, Sean?" Billy asked. "Well, this girl, this Karen, you said you saw, I think she must have been a ghost." "A what?" Tim blurted. "Oh, come on, mate," Billy said. "You must be joking." "I'm not joking," Sean said. "I'm serious. Exactly 1 year ago today, a little girl called Karen was playing duck apple with a few of her friends in this very same spot, using that same very barrel. Anyway, I don't know all the details, but it appears that for some reason her friends wandered off into the woods somewhere for a while and left her alone with her head stuck in the barrel, trying to get more apples out. When they eventually returned, they found her body, face down in the water. Somebody, we still don't know who, had apparently crept up behind her, pushed her right into the barrel and drowned her." "Oh my God," Tim gasped, his face going a sickly pale. Billy looked equally shocked. A heavy, almost oppressive silence fell over the moonlit woods. Even the distant sounds of the Halloween revellers now seemed to have abated. Then a sudden sound came from the bushes just behind Sean and Mary. A rustling sound. An animal? A human? All of the kids looked over to where the sound was coming from, and a cold, collective shiver ran through them as they saw a small form standing there in the bushes. The figure of a young girl, no more than 9 or 10 years of age. The girl's face was corpse white in the moonlight, and she was staring at the kids intently. Her whole body looked as if it had just emerged from a bath of water, or perhaps from a barrel of water, for it was drenched from head to toe. Her long blonde hair plastered over her face like rats' tails, her pale blue dress saturated and clinging to her body like some horrible second skin. Rivulets of water ran down her cheeks as if she was crying copiously. But the expression she then adopted was totally incongruous to the tearful countenance, for her lips were slowly curling into a smile. The smile widened to a grin. "Hey guys," she called, "look what I've got for you." The girl slowly raised her left arm from her side. In that hand, she appeared to be holding something small and round and green. She held up her hand, and the children were stunned to see that from that hand dangled an apple. Then the girl suddenly threw back her hand and flung the apple towards the children, yelling with some kind of mischievous, demented glee, "Here, catch!"